That's right. We are Black Excellence. We are the Bethel Experience. Well, y'all can see it's old school Sunday. I look like the old preacher. The old black preacher wore the robe open with a vest, always a black suit with a white shirt and a black tie. And there was no bishop. I told the choir this morning, y'all can't call me bishop. You got to call me Reverend McKissick. That was all they had, or Reverend Dr. McKissick. They didn't have bishops in that day. But listen, we about to have some church. Can y'all switch, I forget what you call that thing. Show the choir real quick. I want everybody, yeah, the jib. Can they switch downstairs to the jib? No, that's black. I don't know what happened. All right, don't switch to the jib. Go back, please. Did y'all, there it go. I need, the choir got on robes. Now, Rhonda, I need you to turn that camera over. Is that Rhonda or is that Tab? Rhonda dressed like he in Chicago. Rhonda, turn that, I need you to turn that to the band because I need y'all to see my band this morning. The band got on robes, y'all. We have gone old school the whole way. The only folk didn't get the memo is the folk on the sound. They not dressed up.
We even got somebody on the mourner's bench, Bishop, Reverend. We even got somebody on the mourner, and we have an old deaconess, an old mother of the church sitting on the side, Mother Tan, in her hat.
So listen, if you didn't do it, I told you last week, but if you didn't, I need you to run real quick, put some church clothes on because we want you to take pictures. And we want you to post them in which of our pages do they post them?
The Bethel Experience Community Facebook page.
The Bethel Experience Community Facebook page. But now listen, we've got the site, but it's still going to be church today. The Lord is going to meet us in this place. I thought I would do something a little different. You know, one of the beauties of the black church is the diversity of the church. Oh, I want to mention this. Do y'all know this podium is almost a century old? This is the podium, the marble podium from the old sanctuary. It's almost a century old. We've even got the chairs. They've been redone, but those chairs as well. One of the beauties of the black church as we're in Black History Month, Pastor, is the diversity of the black church. The diversity of the black church was really by regions. It was geographical. Depending on what region of the country you lived in, how the black church did church was different. Even in cities, depending on what neighborhood you were in. Now, I thought we'd give some of the old Bethel saints a real flashback because, you know, Bethel was kind of
bougie.
Yeah, okay, bougie. I was trying not to say that.
I was told.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know, your church wasn't far behind. We were kind of bougie. We were high class. We were high cotton. So, you know, while some churches would open with the deacons and we're going to give you a little taste. That's not the way we did it. All the way back to Lillian T. Robinson, to Henry Mack, even down to Wayne Robinson. And we actually stopped it around that time. But the way church would go here, y'all, is that the pipe organ would be softly playing some classical music as people were coming in. And they would start playing some classical. That's what you would hear when they would come in. And then at a certain point, Miss Robinson or Mac would know it's time for we had what was called the organ prelude. So when church started for us, old school, it would sound a little bit like this. You know it was church when we did that. That was kind of the way we did it back then. But now there were other regions of the country that didn't do it like that. In other regions of the country, the old deacons would start, and they do something like, this joy I have, well, the world didn't. Come on, join us at home. Well, this joy, you know the world. Well, this joy, you know the world. Well, you know the world. And the world. Come on, let's keep it right there. Well, they had other verses. They'd say, this peace I have, you know. Come on, stand on your feet at the house. Go old school with us. This peace, you know the world. Well, this peace, well, the world, you know the world. And you know, that tune matched a whole lot of different songs. Because every now and then they'd say, I got a feeling. Everything. Be all right. Be all right. Come on, clap on it. Well, there was another verse. Run, sinner, run. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Find you a hiding. Well, you like that, Quinn? Well, find you. Well, run. You better find you. Then they said, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, what? Come on, one more time. Well, I got a feeling everything. Come on, I want you standing in your house. Everything. Well, everything is gonna be. Cedric, I got one more verse before I give it to you. You can't end that song without the main verse. How you know it's gonna be all right? The Holy Ghost done told me. Well, the Holy Ghost, everything. Well, the Holy, everything is gonna be all. Now you can't end it without the clap and give the band some. Come on, put your clap. I need you clapping at home. Now, you know, in some churches, they didn't have no music. Well, I got Oh, feel that fire in your house. I hope you feel that fire in your house. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Now they had this other thing they would do sometime. They called meter hymn.
That's how we open church.
We didn't do many around here, but every now and then, Reverend McKissick Sr. or Deacon William Scott, they would strike up, guide me, oh thou Jehovah. Come on, one voice. Pilgrim through this barren land, oh Lord, I weak, but thou mighty. I had somebody this morning. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Come on, choir. Oh Lord, bread. My daddy would then say, oh Some of y'all don't know nothing about this. Give to, come on, choir. Well, Lord, and song. Praise, yeah, Lord, song. Praises. I will ever give. Now, you know they never ended a song without giving a hum. The devil don't know what you're saying. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Mother in the church say, devil don't know what you're saying. rocking with us. Some of y'all got something y'all praying to the Lord about. You don't need the devil eavesdropping on you. Put your prayer on your mind and just do it again. Come on, the devil don't know what you're talking about. He can't read your thoughts. Somebody ought to give God a praise. Hallelujah. We didn't practice this one, and I know I'm going to get some of y'all, but the old deacon and the preacher sometimes will get up and say, what you know about Jesus, he's all right. What you know about Jesus, he's all right. Y'all don't know that one. It's getting late in the evening. Sun is going down. It's getting late in the evening. The sun is going down. If I couldn't say a word, say a word. Just wait. Come on, go and praise him. I know some of y'all walking in your house. I know some of y'all walking around the den right now. I know you're walking in the kitchen right now. Yes. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
That's not right.
This is the day the Lord has made. We go old school rejoice. We will be glad in it. Then that deacon would go to praying about it. Father, here we are, down in this mean old evil world, where we're too mean to live and not fit to die. Father, we thank you that last night's mattress wasn't our winding sheet, that my sheet wasn't my cooling board. Y'all don't know nothing about that kind of praying. Father, we thank you for food on our table. Father, we thank you for breath in our body. God, we just want to say right now, we glad to be in the service one more time. Didn't it get to the end of the prayer and say that, Lord, when it's yours to call and ours to answer, give us a seat somewhere around your throne where we can praise your name throughout ceaseless ages. Let the church say amen. Let the church say amen. Let the church say amen. We're going to leave y'all alone. We're going to leave y'all. Take your seat if you can. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. That old church brought the glory with them. They didn't need a praise team. They didn't need a glory button. Matter of fact, sometimes they didn't even have drums. What you heard James doing over there a lot of times, because the church didn't have carpet, you would hear them. That's what you would hear. Yeah. Anybody remember that kind of stuff? Their feet. Yes, sir. Yeah. By that time, Mother Jones would get up. Y'all don't remember Mary Jones. She sat on the second row on the right-hand side. She'd get up to shouting. Lizzie Daniels would be about midway. She had the holy jerk. She'd go to jerking. Y'all don't remember nothing like that. But those were good times in the church when we didn't have a whole lot of money, but God kept on waking us up. We didn't own a lot of property, but God kept making ways out of no way. Every now and then, even before we got to these current times, the white folk had their water fountain, and the nigger had their water. That's what they called us, you know. But we didn't mind what they called us because we knew our real name was Child of God. And it didn't matter what they did to us all week long. Just let us get to the church house on Sunday where we could pat our feet, yes, and clap our hands, yes, and remind ourselves that over our head there must be music in the air, because there must be a God. Do I have any witnesses that remember old school church when you couldn't post, but you had to wait till church was over to tell somebody how good it was, where you had to tell them you should have been there, where you couldn't post and you couldn't video like we can do today. You were just in there waving the fan in the air with the Martin Luther King Jr. on the front, or the black mortician, and just waving your hand talking about the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. The reality is we call the old church, black church, bougie, but in reality we have become the bougie church because we don't want to move. We want green, blue, and red lights and dry fog and Disney World music, but in the real black church they made up words to songs and they just rock from side to side like y'all doing, talking about how good God is and what a blessing and a miracle. Do I have any witnesses in here? Just wave your hand. Come on, if you can't say a word, just wave your hand. Let me see you waving at home. Put a wave emoji on Facebook right about now. Y'all better play. That's old school church, y'all. We can't forget those days because God has been good to us as a people. Do I have any witnesses? Hold on. We got to be real old school. So, good morning, Bethel. These are your announcements for the morning.
Church announcements.
I'm thankful that Sister McKissick has joined me up here to help me with these announcements. See, here's what people don't realize. This is history. The reason that the church clerk or whoever would read the announcements in the old days is because a majority of the church could not read. That's where that came from. And so they would have to read the announcements to the people because the people couldn't read, but they could hear. And they were committed even though they couldn't read it. So that's why, just a little bit of history. That's why. So these are your church announcements for the morning. The Bethel Church store will be open from noon to 2 p.m. for purchase and pickup. Please, ma'am, please, sir, if you have purchased your TBC merchandise, we want you to pick it up if you would like to have some. We would admonish you to go to the store where Sister Jocelyn McKissick is waiting on you at noon today to purchase or pick up. We want to remind you that COVID, this old school, what's COVID?
The autoimmune disease.
No, they sure didn't know that word.
Illness.
COVID testing will still occur Monday through Wednesday from 10 to 4. If you feel you got a cold, you got a cough, you got a sneeze, you can come up here. All you have to do is register with what you see on the screen on the lower third. They didn't know nothing about lower thirds, but y'all, I got to come back into contemporary.
Down on the screen.
Down on the bottom of the screen, you'll see right there all of the information for COVID testing. Don't forget midweek manna. That is, no, that ain't what they call it. Bible study and prayer meeting will be this Wednesday night at 7 p.m. All are invited to join us on the screen.
BTU is suspended for next Sunday. Y'all don't know about BTU?
Next Sunday, well, now they would know about this, some of them. Next Sunday is Greek Sunday and HBCU Sunday. We're admonishing everybody to wear, if you are Greek, wear your paraphernalia. If you went to an HBCU or you want to rep an HBCU, put those on and take your pictures for next Sunday. I'm still in the I Dare You series. And next Sunday, because I'm talking about relationships now, next Sunday, tell me like this, I'm preaching booed up, hooked up, or messed up.
Well, my God, baby, that's a whole lot of booed up, hooked up,
booed up,
or
hooked
messed
up, or messed up. I want to encourage, and I'm serious about now, okay, I'm back in character. I want to encourage every teenager, especially, to watch next Sunday. Every teenager and all of us. It's not a sermon for the youth, but everybody needs to hear this sermon next Sunday. Single, I really encourage you to listen next Sunday. Booed up, hooked up, or messed up. Finally, we are returning to church the first Sunday in March. We will be back in the sanctuary. We are starting with 500 people. I didn't say 500 vaccinated. We've got to jump in the water at some point, but we're going to jump in with safety. There are going to be mega protocols all over this sanctuary, from distance to sanitizing stations when you walk in, to masks that have to be kept on the entire time you're in, unless you're in the choir. Don't try to join the choir this week to sing with the choir. Now, registration is still required. Registration will occur starting next Sunday at noon. You already know the deal. Text TBC Hybrid to 54244 or sign up for email subscription. Go to our website, thebethelexperience.com. Sign up, become a subscriber, and you will receive that link back to register. You will, listen now very carefully. You will need to register, and everybody needs to have a ticket with your name on it. All right?
Now, please check your spam emails, because a lot of times people say, I didn't get anything. Check your junk mail or whatever it is, your spam emails, for info at the Bethel Experience, so you can get your information.
Yes, and so I'm excited. We're going to do 500 for the month of March. Then April, we're going to ticket up to 750, and then begin to include children 5 and up. 5 and up. And hopefully, as our staff and all of our volunteers work through the protocols, that's why we're doing it at a slow pace, so that we can make sure we have protocols in place and the like. But I'm so excited for the people to be coming back to church. It is just a joy. Let me say, like the old preacher, a boon and a blessing that the people will be coming back to church. Hey, if you did not see Vision Night last Wednesday, you missed a powerful night of expressing the ministry that we do here at the church. If you missed it, you can go back on the Facebook page and watch it on the Bethel page. You need to. I'm admonishing every disciple of this church that has not watched it to go back and watch it, because we talked about how we fed 1,500 plus families last year, did many things for outreach, had over 236, I believe, new disciples to join. We talked about the new virtual campus, and we'll be giving you more details on that, about signing up for that, or how we will be inviting everybody that's in a ministry, or if you're not in a ministry, you need to join a ministry so that you can be a part of the virtual campus, where there will be announcements, where there will start to be small group classes, all of that. And we're excited about that. And we talked about our Honor Seed Sundays that we're going to do this year. The first one is Resurrection Sunday. And in the weeks to come, I'm going to be talking about that. The Lord has presented us with a favorable opportunity to do something major financially. And I know that you're going to participate in that real good. Come on, Cedric. Y'all come on and bless us. Hold on. What you say, babe? Oh, go ahead. Do that.
Well, we want to also, Black History Month, we must exercise our right to vote. Our ancestors, they stood in line, they sweat, they fought to have the privilege to vote. Voting is a privilege. It is our right. And for you not to vote is doing a disservice to our ancestors. So on this Tuesday, early voting is open, but on this Tuesday is a very important election because in November they had a runoff. So it's Tracy Polson, and I believe it's whatever his name is, the other guy.
Oh, Jesus, you didn't say whatever his name is.
I can't remember, but anyway, we want to make sure that we exercise our right to vote. It starts at the local level. Right. We can't fix at the higher level what we won't face in the lower level. Right. So if you don't exercise your right to vote at the lower level, then the upper level will continue to operate like they are. So please get out and vote. Your voting place, you can go down here to the supervisor of elections. You can go online and see where your voting place is, but please, please, please do not wake up Wednesday morning and tell somebody that you did not vote.
Wow, that's so good. Last thing, your giving. Listen, Vision Nights should have ignited giving in this church, because what you saw on Wednesday night is what your giving goes towards. It goes towards ministry. Does it go towards bills? Of course it does. We have staff that is working. I know some of y'all are saying, well, they ain't been in office in 2 years. They've been working. Regular staff meetings. They've been doing, in many instances, some of them more than they normally would do. Staff. We still have to keep the temple of the Lord up to par. There are many things that need to be done. Cedric and I were talking last night. He was talking about some things that need to be done with the instruments to bring them back up to par. But the most important was ministry, your giving. And many of you that watched on Wednesday night should have been excited and ignited to up your giving. Bishop Hilliard said something to us last night when we were talking that I'd never thought about before when it comes to giving, because the power of giving is not your money. The power of giving is your obedience. And here's what he said. Obedience shows God that what's important to God is important to you. And when you don't give, you show God that what's important to you is more important than what's important to God. And then he said, when you show God that what's important to God is important to you, God will then show you what's important to you is important to him. Lord have mercy. That he'll start to bless you and open the windows of heaven. I challenge you today, through your giving, to show God by obedience, God, what's important to you is what's important to me. Show God that you want your church to not only do what we talked about Wednesday night, but to do even greater things this year. The tithe belongs to the Lord, the seed over and above, and you see all of the giving platforms on the bottom of the screen. Of course, the trustees are here if you want to bring your tithe and offering up to the church. But give this morning liberally, give cheerfully, give obediently. Don't just go to the app and throw something in there. Be prayerful about what you give this morning. Be obedient to the tithe and then become a giver. Then, of course, the seed, as I'm preaching, and this sermon this morning is, yeah, this is going to be rough this morning. But everybody needs to hear this one this morning and get ready for that. And sow seed even as I am preaching. But you be a giver, a tither. Show God what's important to him is important to you. Come on, Cedric, y'all bless us with an A selection, not an A and a B. You remember in the old church, They would say the choir is going to come and give us an A and B selection. And after these A and B selections, the next voice you will hear will be that of the pastor of the church, Reverend Rudolph McKissick. Hear ye him. We thank you that at all times and in all things we can depend on you. Through the storm and through the rain, through sickness and through pain, through hurt, through heartache, whatever it is, thank you that you are always dependable. We can hear a word from you. Bless now your word. Stand up in your servant. Use this word, oh God, to ignite a fire in us, to live according to your will and according to your word, which makes us walking in your way. In Jesus' name, Amen. Boy, this has been fun. See, when Quinn start playing stuff like that, that get me right there. My Savior, I come to. When I was a little boy, we would drive home every Sunday listening to Reverend Charles B. Daly, and I would ride home with my dad. I would wait around for him to finish whatever he was doing, and I would always ride home with him, and Pastor Daly would just be talking about stuff and talking, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you knew it was time to preach. He said, I need thee. Anybody need him? Oh, I need thee. Come on, if you know it at home, help me get ready to preach. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come, hallelujah, to, come on, go to Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12. I even bought a paper Bible with me this morning. It's old school Sunday. Genesis chapter 12. And we're going to go down to verse, hold on, y'all, I'm sending all the folk a text that ain't logged on yet. You know, the beauty of the pandemic is that nothing is off limits. That's the beauty. Because some of them ain't signed on, got good numbers. That's the beauty of the pandemic. Praise the Lord, everybody. All right. Genesis chapter 12. And I want you to go down to verse number 4. Genesis chapter 12, verse number 4. Hear the word of the Lord. So Abram left as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. That's enough of that verse. Go over to chapter 13. And go down to verse number 8. Lord have mercy. And Lot went with him. Verse 8 says, so Abram said to Lot, let's not have any quarreling between you and me, or between your herdsmen and mine, for we're brothers. Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. And then go to verse 14. Now the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had departed from him, lift up your eyes from where you are and look north, south, east, and west. Amen. Verse 12, chapter 12, verse 4 said again, and Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. We are still in our I Dare You series, and this month we are dealing with relationships, all types of relationships. And this morning I want to talk about I'm dealing with a lot. And Lot went with him. I'm dealing with a lot. If there's one thing we as humans are not built for, it is leaving. The problem with leaving is something that is built into us right from our very time in the womb. For instance, a baby is comfortable inside the womb of the mother. It's warm, though dark it may be. It's insulated. As a matter of fact, the only reason a baby leaves the womb is because they have outgrown the space they have been confined in. No, that's not the right way to say it. They have been growing, listen, which really means a part of growth is outgrowing spaces. Somebody should have got that right there. A part of growth is outgrowing spaces. And in those spaces that you have outgrown, when your comfort is greater than your transition, God will find a way to break something and push you out. I don't know who this is for, but don't, this is going to bless somebody right here. Don't feel bad about spaces you have outgrown. For somebody, you have been mad with someone or mad at something that you feel pushed you out of a place or a space. I want to tell you this morning, don't be mad at them. It wasn't them. It was God. Whatever they did or whatever it was, know that it was God using them to break the water barrier that was keeping you confined in a place you were too big for. We have a hard time with leaving. In the psychology of leaving, many psychiatrists point out that there are two main things involved in leaving. One, you are dissatisfied with your current situation. However, secondly, no matter how dissatisfied you feel, we often don't leave because we feel anxious and uncertain about alternative options. Psychologist Dr. Rob Archers says that listen to this, the mind prefers the status quo. In other words, our minds prefer the things it already knows. The wrestle becomes that although my mind prefers the status quo, I want more out of my life than safe. Overwhelmingly, in a poll that was taken, it was discovered that people, more than anything, want the chance to author their own lives, make positive decisions, and break free from the inertia that keeps them stuck. But it's impossible to do this without taking risk, and minds prefer certainty. So people often end up staying where they are, but more by default than choice. Ooh, I'm messing with somebody. They console themselves when they stay with hopes that their situation will get better. They console themselves, watch this, by staying where they've outgrown for fear of going into the unknown, by settling for short-term compensations. So then, here we go. God sometimes has to come along to make the decision for us and cause the water to break on the womb of our comfort and push us into where God wants to take us next. This is going to be uncomfortable for some of y'all this morning. That's what God did to Abram. We know this story, and I will not belabor going back over it. I just preached it a few months ago, actually, that Abram is pushed out by God to leave his family to go on a faith journey of promise and prosperity. And I submit to you that this leaving was not just physical, but it was total. It was body. It was mind. It was spirit. He had to leave it mentally. He had to leave his family and forsake it emotionally. He had to break free from the habits and the mindsets he had been raised in. Now, I know somebody's already saying, but Bishop, Abram didn't have the problems you mentioned in the introduction. He left without a problem. But I submit to you this morning that he did have the problems I mentioned, and it is seen in one little phrase that had big implications. Hear that verse in chapter 12 again. And Abram departed as the Lord told him. Here it is. And Lot went with him. Now you got to back up to the preceding verses in chapter 12 to really get it, because what God really said to Abram was, leave your country, all your people, and all your daddy's household. And then verse 4 says, he left like God told him, and Lot went with him. Lord have mercy. I said this a few weeks ago, but I'm going to say it again in an expanded way. What you can't leave is where you stop. It's a principle of life that whatever or whoever you can't leave. Now let me say to all the married couples, this is not a signal from God that it's time for you to leave your marriage, because if you read chapter 13, it says he took his wife with him. I need y'all to get that straight right up front. But I need you to hear, when it comes to other relationships and other friendships that you know you have outgrown, whatever you can't leave or whoever you cannot leave determines where you will stop in one aspect of your life or another. Whatever you cannot separate from mentally or emotionally, and whoever you can't uncouple yourself from emotionally, whether it be a friend, a boo, an ex-spouse, an ex-boss, a co-worker, an ex-co-worker, or thoughts about your past, that's where your life's stuck. Some of y'all are stuck not because of what they did to you, but because you keep talking about what they did to you. Here's the reality, y'all. You never find momentum backwards. Preach, Rudolph McKissick. When God told Abram to leave his family, his people, his nation, he was almost fully obedient. But Lot went with him. We don't know how it happened. We don't even know why it happened. The Bible doesn't say. But we do know that Lot going with him was in direct contradiction to what God told him to do. And see, what you don't realize until you read all of chapter 12 and verse 13 and chapter 13 is when Lot went with Abram, Lot caused quarrels. He caused bad things to happen. He caused difficulty for Abram and his wife. He was a greedy person, and his greed caused all types of unrest and dysfunction in the life of Abram and in his family. Abram started catching hell because Lot went with him. Abram was dealing with a lot. Yeah. Having a lot with him almost cost him his life on one occasion. Lot's problems became Abram's problems, and all of this should have never taken place. All of this unrest happened because Abram took Lot with him. He was dealing with a lot. And I came to free somebody today. Today is the day you need to leave Lot behind. Because when you take Lot with you, you got a lot on you. Preach, boy. Yes, yes. Here's my question. Who do you take with you? What lot has you dealing with a lot? Who or what is the lot in your life that you should not have, but you still have? Your struggles and your frustrations could be because you're dealing with a lot. I know I'm messing with some of y'all. See, here's why this needs to be dealt with this morning, children. Because sometimes when God pushes us into an uncomfortable future, we have the tendency to want to carry with us something familiar from the past. Child, I don't know what this is going to be like, so I need you to hold my hand through this. Child, I don't know what to expect from this, so I need you to promise you're going to be with me every step of the way. But when God tells you to leave somebody or move on from somebody or move on from something, you better do it, because the devil can use the little you bring with you that you should have left behind you to tangle you up with emotional manipulation, toxic energy, and dysfunctional relationship. See, that's why God wants you to do all the leaving up front. Preach, Rudolph McKissick. That's why God wants you to get rid of everybody up front. I gotta say bye to my baby girl. She's going back to Orlando. Y'all pray for her that she be safe on the way. She got a big time job. She got to go back to work. Yes, let me come back to this. See, that's why God wants you to do all the leaving up front, because where God is taking you, some folk you dragging with you are going to drag you down and keep you from what God has for you. And the last thing you need to be is hesitant, struggling, or confused. And if that's where you are right now, it could be you dealing with a lot in your family, a lot somebody on your job, a lot Somebody in your friendship circle. I got to be like the old preacher. Whenever my dad would preach sermons like this, and he knew wasn't nobody going to say amen, my daddy would always say amen, lights. Yes, yes. This is a tough place to be, y'all, to get rid of folk, because we are better at including people than excluding people. Woo! Our need for affirmation and our need for folk to stroke our egos causes us to keep folk around because we don't want to deal with the drama it will take to get rid of them. But I want to tell you, it can get emotionally manipulative. But until you become good at both, until you get good at telling them come, and until you get good at telling them stay, until you get good at telling them you belong with me, and until you get good at telling them the road stops here, you will miss what God has waiting on you. An anonymous writer once said, if you've got one eye on yesterday and one eye on tomorrow, you're going to be cockeyed today. And some of y'all are cockeyed because you got one eye on stuff you should have left, one eye on people that don't belong with you anymore, and the other eye on trying to look at your future. And you can't look at your future with one eye over here and the other eye over there. Bishop, you got to help me, because there are some folk that I know I've outgrown. There are some people that I know are holding me back. Let me just show you 3 things that'll happen when you take Lot with you. Y'all ain't gonna like this first one. Y'all really ain't gonna like all of them, but I need you to write them down. God won't change your choices, but your choices can't change your consequences. God won't change your choices, but your choices won't change your consequences. Okay. Tim, I find it interesting that God, this is really deep. God never took issue with Abram taking Lot with him, even though that choice put Abram in disobedience. Read the Bible, read the text. God never comes to Abram and said, what are you doing? God never comes to him and says, don't do that. God never comes to him and says, you're disobedient. This messed me up, Pastor Kim. God never took issue with Abram taking somebody that God didn't tell him to take. Can I tell you what that teaches us? It teaches us that God will allow you to keep people involved in your life who you should have separated from for the sake of your next assignment or blessing or your new beginning. Y'all ain't gonna like this. God will allow you to keep whoever you want. Ooh, y'all don't like this. God will let you keep whoever you decide to take with you. The choice is yours. Just be aware of the consequences. This is rough right through in here, Holy Ghost. God not going to stop you. It's almost as if God was saying, I told you what to do. But if you choose to allow a relationship that you should have cut off to continue into the new I promised you, it's your decision. And Abram, I'm not going to take issue with you, but don't take issue with me when consequences start to happen. Preach, Rudolph McKissick. When God gives you a command about leaving something or someone behind, God expects you, hear what I'm about to tell you, God expects you to take full responsibility for who comes with you that he didn't authorize. Jesus, help me preach this morning. When God tells you to leave something, or when God has awakened his Holy Spirit in you enough to know that friendship needs to end, I need to stop talking to that person. That person is causing me to be who I'm not supposed to be. That person is too negative. That person can't help me go where God's trying to take me. And you decide to keep them around. You need to know God expects you to take responsibility for whatever happens because they come. Because Lot is with Abram. Now here's what's deep. Here's why you got to watch it. Because Lot is with Abram. You got to read all of chapter 12 and 13. Lot gets the overflow of Abram's blessings. Lot gets some of the land. Abram has been made wealthy in chapter 12 as God promised. And as a result of Lot going with Abram, Lot is increasing as well. Here's the problem. Because Lot is increasing as well. And here's the problem with some folk that are getting blessed because they're with you. Lot might start to confuse association with anointing. Just because you associated with me don't mean you anointed like me. Help me preach. And I think that Lot would start to think, rather, that he is just as much a part of the promise God made as Abram is. And it would fool Lot that because he's being blessed, that maybe God's going to bless me because I'm connected to Abram. No, baby, the promise ain't on Lot, it's on Abram. But because he's with Abram and getting blessed, he might think it's on him when it's not. So now there's confusion and quarreling. That's the verse I read to you in chapter 13. There's confusion and quarreling and land division, all because Abram didn't fully do what God told him to do. I want to tell you, the choice is yours. Whoever you got in your life, the choice is yours. God may not stop that affair. God may not stop you from hanging out with the folk you get drunk with. God may not stop you from hanging out with the folk you gossip with because you don't realize they gossip about you when you're not with them. God may not stop you from choosing, but you can't stop consequences from coming. And here's the harsh reality some of y'all ain't gonna like, that are trying to say, they messing up my life. I knew I should have left them alone. It's not Lot's fault. You can't blame Lot. Lot wasn't given the command, you were. Okay, y'all ready for the second point? The first point, first thing I try to tell you is God won't stop what you choose, but you can't stop the consequences from your choices. Number two, you've got to know how to redefine relationships. Some of y'all in the choir, y'all might throw a phone or a fan at me on this one. Let me tell you what I've discovered. Some people leave by themselves. Some leave with a hint. Others have to be told flat out. Come here. Some people leave by themselves. Some people leave with a hint. You don't answer as much as you used to. You don't respond to the calls. You don't respond to their texts. You all of a sudden busy when they want to go hang out. But some folk have to be flat out told, you are not coming with me to my next. I like that. Watch chapter 13. The verse I read to you around verse 8 or so. Watch what happens. The land has gotten too big for the both of them to manage and enjoy, and they starting to fight. Fights have started to break out between the two of them. See, this is what starts to happen when you carry Lot further than you're supposed to carry him or her. You start fighting with them every time y'all talk. You start have disagreements every time y'all talk. Here's what's deep. Now we about to get into it. Lot was a good relationship for Abram, who Abram had been. But Lot is not a good relationship for Abraham, the person God was about to make him. Come here, it's about to get good. Let me say it again. Lot was a good relationship for Abram. Lot was not a good relationship for Abraham, who God was making him. Abram was the polytheistic worshiper. Abram, yes, was the heathen worshiper. Abram was the pagan worshiper. Abraham would be the father of the faith. Y'all ain't helping me. Lot was good for who Abram had been, but not for who he was about to become. And here's a terrible thing: when some relationships are at their best when you are at your worst. Woo! a relationship is at its best when you are at your worst, it's time to get rid of that. Woo! When you have to be a dysfunctional version of yourself to have a functional relationship with somebody, you dealing with a lot. God, I'm trying to help somebody in here today. So Abram gets smart. Read it. Abram knows something ain't right. So I need you to get this. Abram don't just let him hang around. Well, I ain't going to mess with him. Well, you know, he is my nephew. Well, you know, he is family. Well, you know, I'm just, here's the narcissistic response. You know, I'm just trying to help them, so I'm going to keep them with me. Here's the narcissistic response. I'm going to let them hang around me because I believe if they hang with me long enough, they're going to change. Abram said, no. You got me fighting with you. And that's a dysfunctional version of who I am. Preach Rudolph McKissick. You got me cussing you out. It's right there in verse 8 of chapter 13. You got me using cuss words I stopped using last year. That's a dysfunctional version of myself. You done got me going back to drinking gin and juice with my money on my mind and my mind on my money. That's a dysfunctional version of myself. You done got me going back to looking up numbers of folk I ain't called in 5 years. That's a dysfunctional version of myself. And if I got to be a dysfunctional version of myself for us to have a functional relationship, I dare you to leave Lot where you left him. I know this ain't the run around the church kind of preaching. So Abram gets smart. Watch what he does. He doesn't end the relationship, but he does redefine it by putting distance between them. Oh, this is some good preaching. To save the relationship, he redefines the relationship. Because sometimes you have to redefine a relationship to keep a relationship. Here's your next clubhouse, Tim. Abram showed some relationship intelligence. He had enough sense to know that the relationship wasn't what it used to be. They still relatives, but now they relatives redefined. They aren't friends, they relatives. So here's basically what Abram said in verse 8. We got to stop all this quarreling. Here's what Abram said. Let's stop saying we close and we aren't. Let's stop acting like we boys and we not. Woo! Let's stop acting like we still girlfriends and we not. Ooh, this is good preaching right here. And Abram says, let's stop quarreling. So Abram says, listen, I am not up to manufacturing passion just to keep you around. Abram says, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make you an associate. Can I tell y'all, please write this down. Can I tell you what an associate is? An associate is someone who isn't evil enough to be an enemy, but not trusting enough to be a friend. Preach Rudolph McKissick. Let me say that again. I ain't got no beef with an associate. Number one, because you ain't going to be close enough to me for me to give you the power to make me act in a dysfunctional way. An associate is somebody that's not evil enough to be an enemy, but they ain't trusting enough to be a friend. So I know how to treat you at a distance. Abram said, read it. Abram said, here's the deal. You go left, I go right. You go right, I'm going to go left. Woo! And we still, I'm still uncle, you still nephew, but I'm redefining. You can't go with me because I'm tired of treating you like you a friend when you really ain't nothing but an associate. Stop being manipulated into holding on to friendships because God has grown you and matured you to the place where you know they can't go with you. Abram rather saw that the relationship as it was about to destroy all he had. Here it is. and Abram said, I ain't willing to lose my blessing just to keep you. Do I have any witnesses? Holler at your boy in the Facebook comments on YouTube. Or if you're in the sanctuary, wave your hand. Who can say, you know what? If I got to talk about getting my blessing or keeping you, you're going to lose every time. Do I have any witnesses who can say, you know what? God's been too good to me for me to keep hanging on to you. And I know that God's not going to bless me like I want God to bless me. As long as you hanging around, I'm not going to lose my blessing, my future, my legacy, holding on to you. I'm done. I'm done. Here's the last thing I want to tell you. We may get a little good shout in here. When you hold on to a lot, you'll be missing out on too much. When you hold on to a lot, you'll miss out on too much. Okay, go chapter 13, the last verses I read. This is finna get real good. To get the power of this thing in chapter 13, verse 14, I need y'all to read the words. Watch this. The Lord said to Abram after Lot departed from him. Come here. Oh, this is finna get good. All you got to do is read the Bible. The Lord said to Abram after Lot departed from him. Go back and read every verse between verse 4 of chapter 12, where Lot went with him, and verse 8 of chapter 13, and here's what you'll discover. God went quiet on Abram. God stopped talking to Abram until Abram stopped dealing with Lot. Jesus. For a prolonged period of time, there was no more word from God. Remember what God said to him in chapter 12? Leave your family, your household, your families, your kindred. Go to a land I will show you. Which means that God was going to talk, Cedric, Abram through where he was taking him. I will show you. Which meant God and Abram were going to have constant communication in order for Abram to know where God was going to take him. And if God stopped talking to Abram, that means vision stopped as long as Lot was around. Maybe you can't open the business because you brought Lot with you to help you open it. Now, read chapter 12 and 13. Some bad things happen and some good things happen. Abram got blessed a little bit, but the best thing wasn't happening. God wasn't talking. It's almost as if through the silence, God was saying, I can't speak to you, and I will not speak to you about things that deal with your destiny and my call on your life until you are in full obedience and separated from who you included. And sometimes it's not a person, it's thoughts. For some of y'all, Lot ain't a person. For some of y'all, it's stuff you holding on to. Vengeance, anger. You mad with somebody. They don't even know you mad with them. And I'm not saying they didn't do it. I'm not dealing with that. Maybe they did. But you gonna hold back your blessing? Hanging on to anger? You got a lot with you. For some of you, Lot ain't a person. It's holding on to how he treated you. And he divorced you. And you don't know what they said about me behind my back. You don't know how mama and daddy treated me. I know. Ain't somebody saying this ain't old school preaching. You mean you're going to miss your blessing? I ain't missing my blessing. God is still opening doors for me. God is still making ways for me. Yeah, but what you don't see are the doors God shut because of what you holding on to. And God said, I ain't talking to you about everything I have for you till you let go of that. So now you have slowed down the flow of God's directive word for your life. You in church and can't even hear God. Woo! You in church and God trying to speak to you, and you ain't even trying to listen to God. It's as if God was saying, Abram, before you can get the next word I have for you, you got to be a good steward over the last word. Maybe God is silent on some of us because God is waiting on us to finish obeying the last piece of instructions we still ain't obeyed. Okay, I'm done. Look what was waiting on him. Now I'm going to give y'all 5 minutes of a shout, because I know it's been body blows. Watch the words of the text and you'll get it. Abram said to Lot, here's what Abram said to Lot. He said, so here's the deal. He says around verse 8, verse 9, if you go left, I'm going right. If you go right, I'm going left. Let me tell you what that reminds me of. Now I'm going to liberate some of y'all from feeling bad for something. When you see certain folk coming your way, that means turn and go the other way. It's in the book. I ain't making it up. Abram said, if you going left, I'm going right. And if you going right, I'm going left. So stop feeling bad when they say, I know you saw me and you decided to go the other way. Now you need to tell them, I did see you, but I'm tired of dealing with a lot. So God has given me permission to go left when you go right, and go right when you go left. Some of y'all don't like me now. See, I know you don't like me. That's why you went the other way. I know you saw me looking out the corner of your eye and you decided to go the other way. You're absolutely right, because everything you were going to bring in my space, all the energy you were bringing in my space, and God has given me permission to go the other way when I see you coming, to not answer the phone when I see you, to block your number from texting me, to block you from DMing me, because I'm trying too hard to get everything God has for me to keep messing with you. Okay, hold on. That ain't the shout. Y'all ready? Abram said, you go left, I'm going right. You go right, I'm going left. So if you go left, you can have everything that's over on the left. I'll take the right. If you go right, you can have everything that's on the right. I'll take the left. Ooh-wee, y'all don't see it coming. So when Lot left and God finally spoke to him, listen to what God said. God said, Abram, lift up your eyes. Jesus, help me. From where you are, look north, south, east, west. And everything you see is what I'm giving you. Y'all miss the shout because we don't read the Bible enough. Abram said, if you go left, you get all to the left. I'll just take what's on the right. If you go to the right, you get everything on the right. I'll just take what's on the left. Lot left. Then God said, Abram, look north, south, east, and west. Some of y'all got it. And everything you see is what I'm going to give you. Some of y'all got to shout now. See, you worried about Lot getting it on the left. God said, but because he left you, I'm giving that back to you. You worried about Lot getting everything on the right. God said, everything he got, I'm giving it back to you. Can I testify, and can y'all help me shout that God is so good that he'll give you more than what you gave up when you got rid of Lot? How many of y'all can testify today that God blessed me with more when I got rid of what didn't belong to me? He gave up left if it was Lot, but God said you gonna get left back. He gave up right if it was Lot, but God said I'm gonna give you that too. Do you know why that should have made you shout? Because even in disobedience, even when Abram didn't do right, God decided to bless him anyhow, which means God never gave up on him even when he was being disobedient, because God might be silent, but God sure enough ain't absent. High five yourself if you can testify right now that God is silent, but he sure enough ain't absent. That's how Abram made it through some mistakes. That's how Abram made it through some missteps. Because when God was silent, he was still covering Abram. Some of y'all ought to shout real quick that your dumb decisions didn't destroy you, that your dysfunctional relationships didn't kill you, but God stayed with you long enough to give you another chance, because that's how good God is. I'd rather have the Lord and get rid of Lot than to have Lot and not have the Lord. The story was told. It's old school Sunday. The story was told by Charles Haddon Spurgeon that he and his friend were walking one day, and they walked by a barn, yes, and Spurgeon noticed that up on the weather flag there was a saying that said, God is love. Spurgeon said to his friend, I don't agree, yes, with what that thing says, hanging up on the weather flag as the flag is flying and waving left to right. But yes, Spurgeon's friend said, Charles, yes, you missed the message. The sign is indicating a truth that you're missing, that regardless of which way the wind is blowing, God is still love. Good night, sweet children. I got to get out of here, but on my way to heaven, I thought I would help somebody that can help me rejoice that no matter which way the wind blows, God is still love. No matter which way life blows, God is still God. And I got to get out of here, but I need somebody to help me close this sermon. If you know for yourself that through your mistakes, God is still love. Through your bad choices, God is still love. Through your disappointments, God is still love. That's why the old hymn writer wrote in that hymn, Amazing Grace shall always be my song of praise, for it was grace that looked beyond my faults and saw my needs, and I do not know how he loved me so, but he looked beyond all of my faults and saw my needs. But then I can go to the Bible. I don't need a hymn. I can go right now. Johnny Youngblood said the gospel in a nutshell. It says over in John 3 and 16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever should believe in him should not perish, but they shall have eternal life. And so I gotta close like the old black preacher back in the day. They would never close without going to the cross, because the cross is God's ultimate expression of his unconditional love for us. So one Friday on a hill called Calvary, they hung him high, they stretched him wide, he hung his head in the locks of his shoulders, and he died. He did die. He died till the sun stopped shining. He died till the moon started crying. He died till the rocks started trembling. He died till the veil started renting. He died all night Friday. He died all day Saturday, but early Sunday morning, he got up with power in his hands. And because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future, and life is worth the living just because he lives. Do you know he's got love? Because one day I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, very deeply stained within, sinking to rise no more. But the master of the sea, he heard my despairing cry. From the water he lifted me. Safe am I. Through every mistake, hear me this morning. Through every mistake, through every disobedience, thank you, God, that even though you might have been silent, you were never absent. Thank you that your love is bigger than our mistakes. When nothing else could help, love lifted. Love lifted me. Love lifted me. Whew. When nothing else could help. We don't sing this stuff anymore. Love lifted me. Oh, love lifted me. Love lifted me. When nothing else could help, your love lifted, and I love you, Jesus. I worship and adore you. Just want to tell you, Lord, I love you more than it. I love you more than Lot. I love you more than what I'm trying to hold on to. I love you, Jesus. Come on, don't sign off. I just want to tell you, Come on, even at home, I dare you to lift your hands. Declare you love God more than anything. I love you, Jesus. I worship and adore. Just want to tell you that I love you. Oh, more. We're going to go out on that this morning. We're going to go out on that. But before we do this morning, hear me. If you don't know Jesus, the ultimate expression that no matter which way the wind is blowing, God is still love. And if you've never opened up your mouth, confess Jesus as your Lord and Savior, right now, today is the day I want you to do it. Leave Lot behind. Lot might not be a person for some of you. For some of you, Lot might be procrastination. Lot might be hesitation. Leave Lot behind. Bishop, today I want to give the Lord my life, not only because I need the Lord in my life to help me navigate choices and decisions, not only because it gives me eternal life, not only because it gives me an appointment in heaven, but when you give Jesus Christ your life, he promised you heaven on earth. He said, come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. God is not just trying to get you to heaven, he's trying to get heaven to you. Doesn't mean your life will be perfect. Doesn't mean you're just going to make all the good choices, the best choices. What it means is what happened for Abram, that even in my disobedience, when I repent, when I get rid of Lot, when I make a different choice, God will show me he was still there. And he says, look at everything you almost missed, hanging on to bad stuff. The Lord is waiting to receive you this morning. You don't have to walk our aisles, wait till we come back to church. No, because you don't know if you have that long. Here's the reality this morning. All you have to do is do what you see on the screen. I'm trying to get my robe there so yeah, there it is. Text TBC decision to 54244. That's all you've got to do. TBC decision. Bishop, I want to give the Lord my life this morning. Or hey, maybe you're saved. You're saying, now Bishop, that's the kind of teaching I need. I need that kind of teaching to challenge me, to stretch me, to mature me. And now, Bishop, that you're telling me you're introducing this virtual church called the Bethel Experience Network. Now that you're telling me we're going to have a virtual church where I can even get active in ministries, even though I don't live in Jacksonville or Florida. Bishop, I want to be a part of your church. I want to continue my discipleship growth under your leadership. Put that back on the screen. All you have to do is do the same thing you see on the screen. TBC decision to 54244. TBC decision to 54244. You text that, you'll get a text back with a link. Click that link. A video will appear from Pastor and I. You watch that video, then fill out the form, and then our AIM ministry, that's our new discipleship ministry, will be in touch with you to welcome you, to tell you what your next step is to walk in discipleship in the Bethel experience. Don't forget Wednesday midweek manna. You need to be a part of that. I promise you it's going to absolutely bless your life. Don't forget early voting starts on Tuesday. Don't forget, y'all thought this was rough. Next Sunday, booed up, hooked up, or messed up. It's D9 HBCU Sunday next Sunday. Put your stuff on. Let's represent the best of black excellence to everybody that is watching us. Y'all just keep playing that. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and grant unto you peace. The Lord lift the light of his countenance upon you. Grant unto you spiritual benediction. You're rising, you're sitting, you're coming, you're going. Your laughter, your tears, your labor, and your leisure. One last thing before we go into worship with the choir and the band. Let me, on behalf of my family, on behalf of Clint, on behalf of Paula, on behalf of all of us, thank the Bethel nation for your love, your prayers, your cards, your texts. Let me thank my staff, my chief of staff, Tan, my executive assistant, Tiffany, Elsie, Jerome, and his entire staff, my ushers, everybody who made Kim's celebration yesterday one that she would have absolutely loved. Continue to pray for us, because the reality is, and those of you that have gone through this know this, the adjustment starts today. So pray for Clint, pray for all of us. We love you. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Peace. Come on, choir. Come on, band. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. Peace. I worship.
I worship.